those who've missed can watch it. So welcome everybody to this webinar around the returner programs that are out there. I'd like to welcome you all this morning. Thank you for joining. I'd also like to thank the panelists for giving up their time. Please, if you have questions, put those into the Q&A box, and Sophie will be monitoring the Q&A, and we'll be pausing a couple of times during the webinar to capture any comments or questions that you've got. So I'd now like to start by introducing the panel. So we're joined this morning by Julianne Miles, who is the CEO and co-founder of Women Returners. And her perspective is that she helps organizations and individuals who are looking to return to make sure that their returner programs are successful. And so she brings a lot of experience to this topic. We've also got Stephanie Marshall, who is head of European talent acquisition for Fidelity International. And her perspective on this topic is that she is somebody who's keen to ensure that Fidelity International hires the best talent, but also a diverse pool of talent. We also have Stefan Craig, who is head of investment performance for Newton. And his perspective is that he's hired a returner and can give some practical perspective on how that went. We finally, but not least, we have Luba Nicolina. Luba is a managing director at Willis Towers Watson and global head of research. And she had to approve and then support the introduction of a returner program at her firm. So thank you again for joining the panel. So my first question is to Julianne, which is perhaps you could tell us a bit about the Diversity Project's returner program, cross-company returner program, and also the new supported hiring initiative.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jane, and thanks for inviting me along today. We have been really thrilled to partner with the Diversity Project over the last few years to create 2 supported routes back to work for career returners. They're both targeted at people who've taken a career break of 18 months or more. So the main route, and the one you're going to hear quite a bit about this morning from hiring managers and employers, is the cross-company returner program. So what that is, it's a 6-month returnship launched in 2020, and now we're running it annually. So ran in 2020, 2021, and currently getting together employers to run in 2022. It works really well for the employers as well as for the returners. So all the employers join together, they're able to benefit from economies of scale, make a bit more noise, get a bit more promotion around the program, but actually it works even if you just have smaller hiring needs. So each employer is bringing in 2 to 5 returners. The returners really like it because they get a cross-company peer group. We provide our career returners coaching for the whole group, and they really they get a network and peer support. So in 2020, it was great. We had sort of kicked off with 5 employers and 11 placements, and then numbers have nearly doubled in 2021. So really fantastic. We had 19 returners this year, and also very importantly, 82% of them last year, and it's looking like round about the same this year, are going over into ongoing roles. So again, important to recognise with the returnship, it is set up with a view that if it works for both sides, there's a permanent role at the end of it. And it's been incredibly popular. We had 900 applications this year for the places, and mainly, interestingly, front office roles at mid to senior level. So that area where really looking for greater diversity. So if you're into the 2022 program is recruiting now. The other initiative I want to mention, this is a very new one, is we recognise that some organisations, they don't want to get involved in the cross-company program for whatever reason, the timing doesn't work, or maybe they want to be involved in that and also have a route to advertise ad hoc roles to returners. So we now have an umbrella program called the Diversity Project Supported Hiring. And that means that you can put just an ad hoc role up there. You think this would be really appropriate for a returner. We advertise it on our website, on social media. We have a network of 7,000 returners and 13,000, I think, social media followers. So we get it out there. And if a returner gets the role, they are with this program, they're pitched against other candidates, then they get coaching and support through the program. So that's the two initiatives.
Fantastic. Thanks very much indeed. Perhaps I could turn now to Stephanie to ask why you considered a returner program.
Sure, thanks Jane. So we started looking at our returner programs back in 2016, and it was really off the back of some conversations we were having at the time with our CTO, and he was looking at his technology organisation and wasn't particularly thrilled about the gender diversity within that function. As we know, technology is historically quite gender challenged, and we were sort of thinking about all of the different ways and initiatives that we could try and improve that, and we came across returners as a way to maybe helping redress that balance. Our sister firm in the US, Fidelity Investments, were doing some work in that space as well. And we quickly realised we didn't really know much about it. We were very willing and enthusiastic, but we really wanted somebody to guide us through that process. And through some research and connecting with peers and colleagues, we came across Julianne's organisation, Women Returners. And that's when things kind of really took off from that point. And we worked with Julianne and worked with the organisation ever since. And they really added that kind of advisory capacity to our decision making, and more importantly, kind of connected us with their member network. And we had some great experiences from 2016, and we've done a program ever since. So really, initially, it was about trying to look at the gender balance within our technology function, but also it's much broader than that. We all work in an industry that is that diversity and inclusion is a big topic, and this is just one of the initiatives that we've used to kind of try and address that. Not only did it give us access to really highly skilled returner candidates who typically are female. They're not exclusively, obviously, but I think Julianne has quoted this stat many times. I think sort of 90% of the people on a career break do tend to be women. And we were just blown away when we did our first sort of program and our first assessment centre. We were just absolutely blown away by the quality of that talent pool, by the diversity of that talent pool, and it just became a kind of a snowball effect, really.
That's brilliant. Perhaps I could now turn to Stefan and maybe ask you about why you got involved with a returner program.
I guess initially it was an opportunistic CV came across the desk from my HR department, and at the time we were implementing a new IT system, a new trading platform, and that had to connect to my team's IT infrastructure, and we needed someone who had a lot of experience on an initial 6-month contract in order to help facilitate this IT project and bring the two teams together. We wanted someone who had several years experience and who knew how to be able to talk to both the investing professionals as well as the IT professionals as well. And we were struggling to find someone. And then I was introduced to the Returners program, and in particular one specific candidate that had come into the Bank of New York's Returners program, and she fit the bill perfectly. Again, having had 5 to 6 years industry experience, and again knowing how to talk to both sides of the IT and business side of things, and it seemed to be a perfect fit. And also the fact that initially it was a 6-month contract, that seemed to fit very neatly into the project that we had running, and was a good fit for us initially.
Brilliant. Well, I think we might come back and explore what happened next later, but that's great. And Luba, how did you get to be involved with the returner program?
Sure, thank you, Jane. So we are an investment consultant. We advise pension funds on where to invest their capital, and then my team we assess asset managers, firms like those of Stephanie and Stefan. And we are big advocates of diversity. We have been for a long time. We ask asset managers to increase their diversity and inclusion culture. And then, of course, we want to practice what we preach. And the search for diverse talent has been ongoing for a very long time. And it has become very competitive. And the returner program is essentially another route for us to try and get access to this diverse pool of talent.
Thank you. So just following on from that, I know that you had some reservations about a returner program initially. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jane. So as I mentioned, we have been interested in the concept of bringing returners to our business for a very long time. And I personally, before we started working with Diversity Project, had tried a couple of different networks. And I think the problem there was that they were not as customized and they didn't have the structure that the Diversity Project provides for their returner program. So I genuinely had experience where we spent some money and we didn't get good results there. I also personally know a few people who were on the other side and tried similar generic approach and didn't have a great experience either. So when this proposal to participate in the Diversity Project Returner program came to my table, and it was already like, I don't know, the 10th time when I saw another returner program, we also do it globally. So I said, look, no, it's not going to work. But then there is the Diversity Project, and we are a founding member of it. I have a lot of respect for the Diversity Project, and I also have a very passionate R&D director. So I was incredibly skeptical that it's going to work. But we decided to try 2 years ago. And well, I just got involved in some of the interviews and looking at the quality of CVs, the profile of candidates, it was just incredible. And then obviously bringing people in and having this customized experience where they get support, they get their peer group, and also we as an employer get support. It was completely like, I'm now such a believer. So we continue to participate in this program. I put vacancies in the research team. We also have client-facing roles, and I hope to continue to expand this. And hopefully the pool continues to expand as well, Julianne.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds a great story. But were there any particular challenges that you faced in sort of getting it implemented?
Yeah, maybe just quickly there. One of the challenges there that I would like to highlight and would probably call those who are recruiters on the call to be more open-minded about it is that you need to plan in advance, right? Usually how hiring works, I assume for the majority of us, there is a vacancy, it's out there, you need a person and you go and put it in the budget and go and hire. Here, you need to plan in advance and you may not know what exact vacancy a returner will fill. And also, the first time we just put 2 vacancies into the returner program, when the time came, I felt like I could probably have 4 different roles that I could potentially fill. So it sort of showed that you need to be a bit more open-minded about the whole process and budgeting and approvals, and expect that you are very likely to get high-quality candidates and the vacancies that they could fill.
Thank you for that, Luba. I remember, I think it was probably Roger Irwin once said, if you hire good people, you will find useful things for them to do. So yes, be a little bit braver, I think is the message. Perhaps I could turn to Stefan and ask about any challenges that you faced in introducing the returner program.
I guess a lot of it was about timing for us, particularly during the recruitment process and onboarding in the pandemic. I interviewed our returner once, in the flesh, so to speak, in the office. And then a week later, everything shut down. So that was certainly a challenge for us, not obviously not related specifically to the return program, but just recruiting in that period of time, and certainly onboarding. What I think it has done is actually made myself and the rest of my team better communicators, because we're having to think about what we're going to say, because you don't have those informal chats across the desk that you would normally have. So you tend to block out time in people's diaries. It makes you think about what you're going to say, what you want to get from that particular session. So certainly the remote working has led to a different working style, and also but it has led to a better process. Also as well, I think when you take someone on board and they're in the office, you can not wing it, but you don't have to be so structured in their development. But when people are working from home, bringing on someone who has been out the industry and is new to your company as well, it certainly makes you put some more structure around the role, around the learning, and setting shorter term milestones as well. And I certainly found that useful as a manager and as a hiring manager.
So perhaps it's sort of encouraged the development of a set of skills that are useful more generally, actually.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And Stephanie, sort of what sort of challenges did you face in sort of putting a returner program in place?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about it from the kind of the HR perspective, I suppose, or the recruiter perspective, because generally they're the departments that are kind of delivering this internally. And I wish I'd asked for more help and more headcount for my team to do them sometimes, because it can be quite labour intensive, especially when you're talking about such high application numbers as well. I mean, obviously 900 for the cross company is a huge number. You know, if we're running programs individually, we wouldn't get that many, but it could still run into the hundreds, and you want those people to have a good experience. So I would really, I think one of the challenges is sometimes the kind of the workload. So if you can secure headcount to do this or to run these programs, I definitely suggest that. And I think kind of, you know, these programs only work if everybody is kind of bought into them together. It can't just be a kind of HR, you know, driven thing that's sort of just thrown at the business to kind of to pick up, really. That doesn't work. So really getting a group of really motivated, you know, people who care about this topic, line managers and business champions I think is really important, and we've been very lucky to have that. I think the line manager returner relationship is probably the most critical relationship to kind of get right. And where we've had challenges, perhaps where things haven't gone so brilliantly, is perhaps where that relationship hasn't been, you know, that smooth. So I think educating line managers and supporting your line managers is really, really important, and working with a firm that can help you do that. You know, don't try and do this all by yourself. It's not necessary. There's loads of help out there. There's lots of peer network support. There's a diversity project. There's women returners. There's, you know, other companies that can help you structure these programs. So I think that's been some of the challenge. And then just the good old fashioned budget headcount challenge, you know, is a tough one. I mean, that's becoming less of an issue as we're all really, really busy hiring. You know, for, you know, the volume, you know, open vacancies is an all-time high. So the challenge of, I don't have headcount is less prevalent now, probably, but it still can be, you know, tricky to kind of get businesses and groups to sign off on a headcount that isn't happening for 6 months' time, or so I would say that's sometimes been a challenge, is finding headcount and budget. So I would get those sort of answers sorted out up front if you can.
Brilliant. So I think we can just pause now and see if there are any questions. Sophie, have we had any questions in?
I think we've had a couple. You've answered a couple of them around the challenges in managing. One was around how you get buy-in across the business. Back to Stephanie's point, how do you actually get everyone on board to take part?
I I don't mind.
You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, not to blow Julianne's trumpet too much, but she did help with that positioning, that early positioning, right at the beginning. And I think having a consultancy or a company that can really sell the benefit internally is quite powerful. So, but we've been really, really lucky. We've hit no resistance at all at senior level or at lower levels. And I think just sort of education, just communicating what are the benefits, what are the business benefits, how does this help your bottom line, how does this help you bring in really motivated and engaged talent, not just for a short period of time, but ongoing as well. For the HR, the recruiter perspective, because we're engaging with the talent directly, there's no expensive sort of headhunting fees or agency fees. So it's actually a very cost-effective way to hire some really senior roles. So I use that quite a lot.
Julianne, it might be good to just pick up your sort of wider experience on how you sell this concept to organizations, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
you're
key
on mute.
way.
No, you're not. You're all right.
No, am I okay? Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing is to identify who is going to be a supporter initially for a pilot in the organization, because I think it's not something that really works if you have to push it in. I think where it works is if you explain, the concept, you explain the concept out there, you explain as Stephanie said, the broader business benefits, because I think that's where the important thing about returner programs is it hits that lovely balance, because it's the right thing for businesses to be doing, it's great for society, and it's absolutely fantastic for business because it's a great talent pool. And I think bringing diversity in terms of gender, as we said, 90% of the group are female, in terms of age, maturity, experience, in terms of ethnicity. And actually, we had some interesting stats from the Bank of England that I think they brought in huge numbers of returners, and they've had over 40% of those are from minority ethnic backgrounds, which we know is also sort of an important factor. So this broader cognitive diversity that everybody's looking for in terms of innovation and avoiding groupthink, etc. So I think it's flagging the business benefits, then seeing who gets it and who's, as Stephanie said, really importantly, who's prepared to put the money behind it. Because I think you need to get the people in the business, and I think, Stefan Luber, fantastic examples, the people who can get behind this and be prepared to find the budgets and support it, because generally people think this is a good idea, but then there's a big difference from it's a good idea to actually I'm going to put the resource behind it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sophie, any more questions?
Yeah, there's a couple here. So one around how quickly does a returner get up to speed and begin to add value in comparison to a traditional hire who's someone in the industry? And the second is more around, does there have to be a full-time role at the end of the program, or are there kind of these short-term roles as well?
Well, perhaps if we pick up on the first question, maybe Stefan, if you could perhaps, with your live example, how quickly did your returner get up to speed relative to a sort of more traditional recruit?
Well, again, the COVID scenario aside, because we did recruit someone who had an excellent skill set, had 6 years doing exactly what we wanted them to do, if that makes sense. All we had to do was just basically teach them about the company, teach them our investment process, and then also just get the IT working. And that was it, really. It was from my perspective, and from speaking to my returner colleague, she certainly found the whole experience in getting up to speed actually a lot more swift than she was anticipating herself.
So actually, it needn't be longer than a more traditional recruit.
No, I mean,
because they have that starting skill set.
Absolutely. Interestingly, we also we do use another program where we take school leavers, and they both joined at the same time, and it's quite interesting to see how quickly the returner got up to speed and was engaging and had that confidence to talk to other people on the team and other people across the house as well. Whereas a school leaver typically did take a lot longer to integrate themselves into the team and into the broader company as well.
And Luba, anything to add from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jane. I have a sample of 6 coming from this project. And of course, there is a possibility that I got lucky 6 times, but then 6 times already gives you a certain pattern there. And what Stefan was describing is exactly what we experienced. And it was really interesting, especially the first time. The teams who were receiving returner candidates, they were quite anxious because, especially in one case, we had a very significant break there. It was around or close to 10 years. So they were very anxious and like, well, we need to create the environment. We need to be very cautious with them. We need not to overload them with work. And then the second wave was also virtual. And in each single case out of the 6, the teams were surprised how quickly they started getting value. And this situation where we're saying, oh, like, we don't want to overload you with work, so take it easy. And they come back with passion, like, we want to do more. We're really so interested to do more.
Yeah. So I think people might make assumptions that if someone's taken an extended career break, they've sort of lost their brain or something through that process. And an absolute opposite of that. And they're really ready to get stuck into their new roles. Sophie, any other questions we could take at this point?
Yeah, there was just one around the kind of the fixed term contract. Do returners?
Oh yes, sorry, I forgot that one.
And back to, you know, does there have to be a long-term role at the end of it?
Maybe I could start with Julianne on that question of, you know, if you go into this, are you really promising that there's an opportunity, a long-term opportunity at the end of it?
I think the key thing is setting expectations. So I think if you have a short-term project, this returnship isn't really the right construct for you, because the idea of a returnship is that there will be headcount at the end of it. As we said, it's a trial period for both sides. And if it works, then it goes through into an ongoing role. However, if you have a great project, you think it would be suitable for a returner, you could put it under something like supported hiring, but just be very clear, this is a short-term project, because, you know, what we as an organization, we want to give as many opportunities to returners as possible. So it's not, there is only one route in, there are many, many different ways to bring in and engage and get value out of returners, and also give them the long-term opportunity. So I'd say just, it won't work under the cross-company returner program returnship construct, but absolutely through ad hoc supported hiring, that could be an option.
Great, thank you. Well, perhaps we could turn back to sort of some questions from me to the panel. Really like now to turn to some of the benefits that you've experienced. I mean, you've already all touched on these already, but perhaps we could focus on those benefits. I mean, Stefan, can you talk a bit more about your experience of having your returner in your team and the impact that had?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us initially, it was a project-based role. It was a 6-month contract initially for this IT system implementation, and I really like that way of recruiting staff. It allows us as a recruiting manager to get to know someone, and also it then allows the candidate as well to see if the company is quite a nice fit for them as well, culturally, and also sort of the office environment and that type of thing. And we've had great success in taking people from temp to perm contract basis, and from temp to perm, and it's just I really like that way of recruiting people, and so much so that we have now taken on our returner candidate onto a full-time permanent position. But also as well, if you think about the skill set that the returners are developing whilst they're away from the office, I mean, it's obviously a lot of the time the returners are having career breaks because they're raising a small family, And so basically it's multitasking, it's project management, it's all of those sort of skills that you want someone to come into the workforce with. And so certainly we have seen as benefits, and just juggling many things at once is one of the significant benefits that we've seen that they can apply to our role.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. And Luba, can you talk a bit about, you know, the experience you've had with bringing in the 6 that you've had?
Sure, absolutely. So we already mentioned a couple of times that one of the key reasons to go through this to bring cognitive diversity into the team, and the scale of this cognitive diversity when people step out of our industry of day-to-day reading financial press, trying to take investment decisions, just doing something completely different for extended period of time. How perspective changes is incredible. And just seeing these investment committee discussions where people with this experience bring something completely fresh and different is so powerful for everyone to become a convert into this concept. To a degree, I'm almost thinking maybe our whole industry needs to make it obligatory for people to take a sabbatical and spend time doing something else to get this perspective. So that's the first important benefit. And then the second one, I think Stefan mentioned culture. And as I said, I interviewed a number of candidates on the shortlist. And the cultural fit, this energy that you get from people is just incredible. I sort of felt that I would like to hire all of them because of this cultural fit there. And to a degree, this is what happened, because we only had 2 vacancies on the actual returner program, the cross-company one, the first option that Julian referred to. But then we liked candidates so much that we offered 2 other opportunities in the second option, which is supported hiring, because I felt that the cultural alignment is great and we will create opportunities for the right talent.
Fantastic. And Stephanie, what do you see as the benefits of this program for Fidelity International?
So aside from the obvious kind of, you know, hiring great talent benefits, I think the cross-company program, because it is more kind of investment focused, we've hired some really exceptional, very senior investment talent, female talent, which is really helping, you know, our gender pay gap and our kind of diversity, you know, monitoring in that area, which is also quite challenged. So that's a really strong benefit. But I think also it's the sort of the ripple effect internally. So, you know, it's had a really, really positive effect on how our employees view us as an organisation. You know, that we're making really, you know, positive, proactive steps to actually do something about addressing the gender balance, and that's kind of, you know, creating good noise internally. We've also managed to expand our programs internationally, because what happens is sort of, you know, the CTO talks to his mate that runs distribution, and they're all talking about this exciting, great program, and then other people want to get involved and other leaders want to sponsor programs. So it's got a really nice ripple effect internally from that point of view. Yeah, and you know, and just a really high caliber of talent. The candidates are super loyal, highly motivated, and you know, and just really good corporate citizens as well. So I think we've seen that as a really good benefit.
Brilliant. Okay. Before the last question, it might be good to see if there are any more questions that have come through, Sophie.
One question is around which divisions are you finding the best success rate within? You know, is there a particular role that returners excel in?
Yeah, maybe I could start with Luba on that. What sorts of roles is this fitting best with?
Yeah, there is an angle there that you would probably want roles that are a bit more flexible in their nature. So we had vacancies in client-facing team, in the operations, and also, as I said, within my team, research. And if you think about the dynamics of day-to-day work, research is probably a bit more flexible, that you are more in control of what you can do when, because you are doing research, you are sort of in control of your time. While in client-facing roles, it's obviously not insurmountable, but you are less in control of your schedule. If the client says, I want to see you at 8 o'clock in the morning, you have to be there. But then what you need to do there is just to ensure that there is a support system there, that there is a backup, a body, that if there is a need and flexibility, then there is someone who can be there, both for psychological safety, that you are not going to let your team down, but also just provide the sense of flexibility that in client-facing role, you can actually do it.
So perhaps that argues for situations where there's a team attached to a particular activity that people can sort of pick up and support each other. Stefan, any comments from you on the sort of types of role that this might fit best with?
Well, I mean, I was, as a hiring manager, I mean, I work in a specific investment analysis type role, and that was the role for which I was recruiting. So I'm not quite sure if I can add much to that debate in terms of what other teams would benefit from these candidates. But like just to endorse what I said earlier, anyone who's, if you're looking for someone who can multitask, who is highly motivated, then the returns program is certainly something you would want to look at.
So it's hard to see that there'd be any team that wouldn't want those sorts of skills in reality.
No, but I think Liba made a good point about it would have to be someone joining a team, because if you are having to juggle work-life balance, then having a role which is an individual role out there, then I think that could prove challenging.
Yeah, and it would provide less support for them as they kind of get up to speed as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stephanie, any thoughts from you? Because you've sort of started in with one team and it's sort of spreading. So
yeah, we've done them all over. So we've had good success in technology and operations roles. We've had good success in the investment space, in the research teams. We hired some great ESG analysts. So I'll go back to my earlier point about if you get the right line manager, who I would argue it could be any job could be successful for a returner. If you've got that connection with the line manager, you've got the support. I do think working in a team is preferable, but I personally find it more preferable. And people are returning to work. They want to presumably lots of people want to have that kind of camaraderie, that sort of team feel. They don't want to return to work and just sort of be out on their own. Some people might, I suppose. So I think, any role could work. We've had really good success with sort of project management roles as well. And I've been asked before, technical roles, if you've been out of the industry for a long time, could that be just too difficult to jump back in? But I would say no. I mean, we've seen really good success with people who've been out for a long time. I think our longest career break was 15 years, and she came back into a portfolio manager role. So, it could be anything.
Julianne, is there anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think there is a point to make, which is that even though the majority group of returners are people who have taken a break for childcare and might still have existing family commitments, people take career breaks for other reasons. So you may say, we get quite a few returners who've taken a break for elder care, and it's possible that their parent, their relative has passed away, and so actually they're coming back. They don't still have existing commitments. So you don't need these considerations about flexibility are actually no different than anybody else coming into the workforce. So I think just bear that in mind. It's not just about people coming back in, even though you will find a lot of returners who do still have those family commitments. You do have other people coming back in where they've taken a break to focus on something and now they're just ready to throw themselves back in 100%.
A couple of you have mentioned the role of the line manager and making sure that they're supported around this. Does anybody want to sort of maybe have any thoughts on how you can help the line managers manage this well? Julianne, is that something that you do?
I can mention what we do as part of the diversity project, actually both initiatives, because this line manager role is so pivotal. What we do with the cross-company programme, we have a group briefing session where we talk about how to support a returner when they come into your team. Because I think, as Luba and Stefan mentioned, people aren't quite sure. You know, line managers typically want support, but they're like, well, do I need to go softly? You know, how does it work? And actually, there is a point where returners need a bit more support, and then there's one where actually they want to be challenged. You know, they want to have that, they want to be given the opportunities to reskill, to prove themselves again, and just to get back in there. So we help to talk through the transition stages and practically help the line managers to think how to support a returner. So with the cross-company programme, we do that as a group, because again, it's quite nice to get a peer support group of line managers. But then even with the ad hoc supported hiring, we have a one-to-one session with the line managers again, so they know what to do and they know how to support. I don't know if there's anything, Stephanie, you want to add to that one?
Yeah, so I think I'll speak about sort of Fidelity program support. So we have a sort of a program management team, which I'm part of as well. So we would also support that line manager and say, you know, just make sure they know when the coaching dates are happening, so they don't, you know, book them into an important meeting and then the returner's in an awkward position. So just things like that, just helping them be structured and say, like, these are the key dates. This is when your returner won't be around. Helping the returner meet people. So we've put in networking sessions with senior leadership teams, and that's actually been a bit easier in COVID. I think people are a bit more accessible, weirdly. So that's something that we've helped with. Like Julianne said, the briefings are really, really important. There's loads of material. We would recommend that they do like a midpoint review. So we would help them with that, and also just helping the line manager manage the end of the program as well. So, you know, hopefully there's an ongoing role and we just, you know, we manage that conversion process with the line manager, or if not, then we kind of manage how that returner will roll off, maybe into a completely different team or role, or maybe out of the organisation. So hopefully, you know, that, you know, your HR teams or your program teams are there to support the line managers as well. And it's not just, you know, we recruit them and then you're on your own. There's lots of support.
Brilliant. Sophie, are there any other questions?
Yeah, just a couple for Julianne, actually. So one is around whether you would be happy to go on site and speak to selected managers to introduce the programme and kind of get that buy-in. And the second is around if you could describe a bit more the support that you give to returners in making the return, what if there's coaching and if there's support around building a network in the industry.
Yes. Okay, first question, would we be prepared to come in and talk to line managers? I mean, absolutely. I'd say just after this, yeah, drop me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can have a conversation around that. You know, it's absolutely pivotal to get that business support. You know, we want the returner programs to work. So, you know, fundamentally, we will, and we know we are so confident now. We've worked with over 100 employers, well over, you know, single cross-company programs, fantastic success stories. I mean, you've heard a few today, but sort of in many, many organizations. So I think it's very reassuring for people in the business to know this is a tried and tested model. So that's that one. Secondly is, gosh, what was the second question?
Support for the returners. What kind of
support
thing
for
do
the
you offer?
returners? Yeah, absolutely critical. We have a career returners coaching program. So the career returners coaching program starts from the day the returner joins the organization and takes them through, if they're joining on the returnship, it takes them through the 6 months. If they're joining on supported hiring and directly into a permanent role, it takes them through the first 5 to 6 month transition period. And that helps them with some of the psychological as well as the practical challenges of getting back into the workforce. Psychologically, getting that professional self-confidence back, tackling imposter syndrome, you know, tackling perfectionism often is a bit of a challenge with returners coming back in. They want to be amazing and perfect and superwoman, and we need to help them with that. And also some of the practicalities of coming back in as well, just how to make things work, I mean, practically often they need to stop doing some things at home to make time for work. So we have a very, very experienced coaching team. They know what life's like on career break. They know what it's like coming back into the workforce, and they support with that. So it's a mixture of coaching, but also some sort of structured type advice. So that is the support when they come into the organisation. We also, as women returners, we have a professional network, and with that, we provide free of charge support to the returner who's sitting there at home going, I'm too old, it's too late, it's never going to work. We give them lots of free support just along that return to work journey before they come in. But one of the things that is nice is when, say, we've worked with the Diversity Project, we provided some structured support this year that was funded by the Diversity Project to the returners who hadn't got through. You know, we said there were 900 people apply, you know, and only 19, 20 opportunities. So we gave them some of this structured coaching support to help them to either find roles within the sector or elsewhere. So yeah, it's absolutely, you know, we aim to support everybody in this, and I think this, you know, the Diversity Project is absolutely behind us. We need to support all the stakeholders to make this work.
Thanks for that, Julianne. Any final questions, Sophie, before we do the final piece?
Just a quick one around, have there ever been any problems with people returning to work within the return of candidates? And how has it been handled best?
Okay. And any problems that have arisen with the returners?
Yeah, I don't mind taking that. I mean, of course, you know, hiring anybody is a risk, and you know, you will see problems in, you know, with a returning as you would any other kind of employee. So yes, we've had, back to my earlier point about, you know, when the chemistry perhaps hasn't been quite right between the returner and the line manager, that's when we have seen problems. And if we can't resolve them you know, in situ, then we've found other homes internally for a returner, because we want to, you know, we want to give that person every opportunity to you know, to have a enjoyable and successful experience during their returnship. So we've kind of moved people if that hasn't worked out. So yeah, that's my specific example.
Anything from Luba or Stefan on this? Nope. Oh.
So we didn't have any challenges there per se, well, apart from the budgeting and the whole how do we put the vacancies there that I described. If anything, I would probably describe it as enhanced recruitment experience because of all this additional support that we get. So the only instance where it didn't translate in the full-time vacancy was where the returner herself decided to relocate geographically. And even there, we tried to look to see if we can actually find a suitable vacancy for her, because, well, it just culturally, there was so much connection there. So yeah, it's. I think Stephanie is right that it's just recruitment process. So I don't completely rule out, as we continue hopefully to increase the numbers there, that there may be some instances there where there is no click, and that you have 6 months to essentially see how it works between the two parties. But everything that I have had in the 6 examples that I had was pretty much seamless.
Brilliant.
I think from my perspective, the only, I think Stephanie mentioned it about the imposter syndrome. It's just a case of just nurturing and managing the candidate through the process. And yeah, but apart from that, it's, from my perspective, it's been a very successful program to participate in.
Fantastic, thank you. So I think we're now going to sort of turn to the wrap-up question, which is sort of what advice you would give other organisations that are thinking about going down this route. So if I could maybe 1 or 2 things. So maybe start with Stephanie.
Sure. So a couple of things. Keep an open mind. Flexibility is really important. Not only how you choose your roles, but also how you're screening and sort of looking at applicants. You know, be really, really flexible, hire for potential, ambition, you know, all of those good things, rather than just trying to get an exact kind of skills match, because that you won't generally get that. You may, but be flexible. Educate and support your line managers. I know I've kind of banged on about it a bit, but that relationship is so important. You know, gather a group of really motivated business champions, people who really are passionate about this project, and you know that will definitely help you. And get help. Ask, get advice, get help. Speak to your peers. Speak to us. You know, you don't have to do it on your own. There's loads and loads of support out there to help you structure these programs and, you know, sell them internally. So I would use all that support as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stephanie. Luba, anything to add in terms of top tips?
So I just want to confirm once again, although I probably was very vocal about the quality of this experience. And so I participated as a hiring manager for 2 years, and both times when I look back, I wish I had done more in terms of vacancies and been braver in my initial budgeting process. So just want to say that if you want to improve your diversity and strengthen the culture, it works. So be brave and give it a try.
Thanks, Luba. Stefan, any tips for others?
Well, no, I would just say, just to, again, echo what the other panelists have mentioned about if you're looking to increase diversity in your workforce, looking for a motivated workforce, then the return program is an excellent place to cast your net. Also, as well, I think in terms of when recruiting, it is about being a bit more flexible than you would be ordinarily. But then I do think that as a workforce now, we are becoming more flexible, and this fits quite neatly into that.
Brilliant. And Julianne, anything to add from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I think it's fantastic. I think the three of you have actually summarised most of my key points. I'm not on mute.
No, you're
no.
not.
I think it's taking a while. It's a delay. Yeah, I think the three of you summarised rather wonderfully what I would normally say in terms of summing this up. So I think fantastic tips there. I mean, I think that the key thing I would say is don't spend a huge amount of time thinking about this. I think actually there are some fantastic constructs there that you can come in on with the diversity project. And actually the best way to get this moving is to treat it as a learning experience, pilot, come in on the program. You will see the successes. And I think Luba perfectly illustrated the fact that even the people who might be a bit skeptical, once they meet the returners, they see the talent, then everything will work from there. So yeah, just come in and get started.
Well, thanks very much, everybody. I think that's a wonderful point to finish on, which is just try, because there's some fantastic talent out there. So I'd like to thank the panel today for a wonderful set of contributions. Encourage everybody on the webinar to share this information. The video will be available. I'm sure we'll get that put up on the Diversity Project website and be available to others. So, and if you need more information, then please all contact anybody on this panel. Thank you very much, and I will now finish the webinar.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.